New question. The member for Timmins-James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, my question through you to the Premier. Did the Premier personally make the decision to offer a bribe to Andrew Olivier not to run for office?
Good question.
Stop the clock, please. I'll ask the member to withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, it's in the Election Act.
Withdraw. I will ask the member to withdraw.
Withdraw.
You want to restate the question? Do you want?
This way, Section 96(1) of the Election Act has a section entitled bribery, and it deals with how you're not allowed to do the kinds of things that happened in the last election. So to rephrase my question, utilizing the language under the Election Act under Section 96(1) bribery, did the Premier personally make the decision to offer that bribe to Mr. Olivier or not?
Whether it says that in the Act or you can't use that language in this House, and you can't accuse a member of bribery. That's the ruling, and it'll not happen again. Withdraw.
Wow. Okay, I withdraw.
No, let's get this clear. Withdraw, and then explain to you what I'd like to offer you. Let's just do the withdrawal, please.
I did. Again. Sorry, I'll do it again. I withdraw.
I'm going to ask the member to rephrase the question in a way that does not use the language that is not acceptable in the House.
Well, I don't know. We debated this legislation in the House. It was a word used in the legislation, but I'll try. Did the Premier personally make the decision to offer a blank to Andrew Olivier not to run for office?
I'll try. Order, please. Let me apologize if I'm not being clear enough. First of all, you cannot say anything that indirectly that is meaning the direct word. Second of all, it's not the word or the quoting of the law. It's the accusation of a member being part of that or saying that. So I'm going to ask the member, if one more time you attempt to say the word again, I'll just pass.
Speaker, I will try again. I used the word blank, so I'm going to try another word. Did the Premier personally make the decision to offer something to Mr. Olivier that was contrary to Section 96(1) of the Election Act?
Thank you.
Well said.
Don't answer the challenge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The decision that I made, the personal decision I made, it's just my bracelet, was I know, it just fell off. The decision I made was to appoint a candidate in Sudbury, Mr. Speaker. I made that decision, so there was no nomination race, Mr. Speaker. There was no other process. The process was that I decided to appoint Glenn Thibeault as our candidate. And then I decided, Mr. Speaker, that I would want to keep the former candidate involved. And so that's what the conversation was about, Mr. Speaker. It wasn't about anything other than keeping him involved as a part of the Liberal team, as a part of the family, because he had been our candidate, Mr. Speaker, and I knew it was a difficult process when the leader makes a decision to appoint. But I had made that decision, Mr. Speaker, and that was the personal decision that I made in this process.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Well, that's pretty contrary to the facts, Madam Premier. When you look at the recordings and you read the transcripts, it's pretty clear what happened. You made an offer way before he actually decided that all that had happened. But let me ask you this. When did the Premier tell the Deputy Chief of Staff, Pat Sabera, or the Liberal Kingmaker, Mr. Lougheed Jr., and offered them something that was contrary to Section 96(1) of the Election Act entitled bribery?
You know, the premise of the question is that the member opposite knows what was going on in my mind at every moment and knows when I made the decision to appoint, and he doesn't know that, Mr. Speaker. What I'm saying is that the decision to appoint, I had already made the decision to appoint. That decision had been made. Glenn Thibeault was the person who I wanted as our candidate in Sudbury. That decision was made, and the conversations were about keeping the past candidate involved. That's the truth, Mr. Speaker. I've told Elections Ontario that, Mr. Speaker. I will continue to tell anyone who asks me that is what happened. That is why we were having those conversations.